Oh yeah. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Old School Finance with Abraham and Friends. This episode here, my man JD is going to be joining me in a minute here. I'm going to bring him on, but I wanted to talk about something that especially is impacting us as we turn from one part of the year to the back side of the year. And we kind of can take an assessment of what's going on. But I also wanted to do a little stuff in there based off my last episode where I talked about kids going to college and kids going to high school and them doing some investments. So we got a fun episode. Not gonna waste any time. I'm going to go ahead and bring JD into the mix. Hold on for a second. Modern technology got to press these buttons. Man, welcome back, JD. Man, better known as the Silver Road Traveler. If y'all go out there and look
Hey,
at his
what's up,
website,
Abraham? What's up? What's up, old school finance fam? What's going
look.
on, everybody? Thank you for welcoming me into your place, brother.
If you hadn't seen the last episode me and JD did, go out there and check that episode out, man. It's funny, a lot of good information, and we always have a good time. So I said, well, I'm gonna bring JD back. Got a great discussion today, and we're gonna talk about building patience and time. You know what? A lot of people look at it and be like, man, I want to build something. All they see is the end result. And everybody looks like modern technology now. We got the internet, we got TikTok, we got Instagram. Everything is bam, bam, bam. But when it comes to finance, you got to build something first. Then you got to have some patience to watch it grow. Then you need the time. That's what you're really looking for is for the time. But if you don't complete the first two steps, you can't get the second two steps. How you feel about that, JD?
Well, I totally agree. You know the old saying, how do you eat a whale? One bite at a time. So, yeah, you got to get those steps. You got to do increment, and sometimes it builds on and it compounds. So, I definitely agree with that, brother.
So we're gonna add these slides in because I keep it simple, y'all. You only do two slides. This ain't a PowerPoint death matchup in here. We do the two slides on there, and you can see the slides. Building patience and time. The patience and time it took me to build these slides here. So we're gonna talk about a couple of things, give you our perspective on it from the old school way of doing business. Why we broke. Let's put
That's
it
the
out there. Why
question
we
a lot
broke.
of people trying to figure out, right?
When you come out there and you get paid on a Friday, I remember back in the days, man, we used to get paid on a Friday. I used to hate getting paid on a Friday because
Mm.
that means I would overspend every weekend. And now I'm looking on Monday like, oh, Tuesday was crucial.
Oh, my
Wednesday,
God.
I'm trying to be at a friend house getting something to eat.
That's it.
And you got 2 weeks in between every payday. Oh, why we's broke. You know. So let's talk about a couple of reasons why we broke. No financial foundation built. We learn how to spend first. We learn how to go out there and purchase stuff, how to be a consumer first. Either we learn it from our parents, we watch them, they consumer. We never see where money comes from as a young adult. As we get older, we realize, hey, you get a job, but we're still up on the confine of living up on our parents' roof or somebody's roof where you're not paying the light bill, the water bill, things of that nature. Then when we get out on our own, we never built those habits of pay yourself first.
Oh,
I remember
wow.
we was back in Germany, man. We used to be out there at the club on Friday nights.
Oh, my God.
We lived in the dorm, so we ain't pay no rent, we ain't pay no water bill, no light bill. Technically, we should have been rich.
Oh, yeah. Because remember, too, we was getting cola.
Cost of living allowance was out there too.
For
We was
folks
making
that don't
money.
know, yeah, they may not know, but yeah, in the military, they gave us a little bit of change to live to adjust how much. So at the time, it wasn't euros. We still had the what was it, the
Oh, it's
francs,
mark, the Dutch mark,
marks,
Dutch
yeah.
mark.
So this was before. So we're Gen Z, so it was before that time. So the dollar was good, but they still had to adjust that.
You know what was funny was, and you used to call home from Germany back then, and you used to get that phone that had that meter on it, and that meter would just be running. It just be running. You'd be like, "No, how you doing, family? Good. Click. Gotta go," because you knew you built a build up. And in Germany, what they would do when you sign the contract, if you ain't paid the bill, they come in and start taking stuff. This ain't like the US where they just turn your phone off, let you get incoming calls but not doing any outgoing calls. So, we different times, but same basic principle. But you got to have a foundation. You got to have some type of financial foundation to build on. Either it be through knowledge, either it be through living off one of your parents, looking at how they did business and them showing you how to do it. And we're gonna talk a little bit about some tools out there that give you a helping hand. The second one, can't get rich overnight. Oh
Mm.
man, you know how many schemes I had to get rich?
Oh my God.
Oh, there's some good schemes back in the days. You remember what was that thing you used to sell, like concentrated
Oh, the soaps and the Amway.
Amway? Oh yeah, tell them
Oh,
about
I
it.
got hit up. You know what's so crazy? I got hit up in the 80s with there was this company called Melaleuca, and it was an MLM, and they were selling, it was supposed to be like the oil, and I think they're still out there, and it has like the oil of the Melaleuca tree, and it's in the soaps and the washing powders and all that, and you had to get in. A guy got me in, and I just didn't feel right. And then we had a mutual yeah, we know some people that got into the Amway. We was in Florida,
Ooh, always
but
try to sell something you come to their house.
yeah.
Never come over to watch a movie. Then it was always a presentation.
Bless their heart. But I did hear that people say that is a lesson in learning sales. But I don't know, man. But yeah, that was one of the get rich quick schemes for real.
Now I do know somebody who worked in Mary Kay, and they were very successful in Mary Kay.
Avon, remember my
Yep,
aunt said did Avon back in the day. I don't know
that's a
how
product.
lucrative because I still needed school clothes. So I don't know.
Hey, look, I know some people that got cars off of it. So I think it's a great thing if you're in the sales and it works for
Right,
you. But you have to know what right looks like. You can't go out there and jump on every investment thinking it's going to be a success for you because it may not be a good fit for you. And that's what a lot of
right,
people do. They kind of chase somebody else's investment and they say, well, if they got rich, I can get rich. You got to remember, most investments are tailored to the person, how they behave, their emotions, things of that nature. That's how you build yourself into a good investor. The third one, time. Time is the key for compounding. We didn't see a lot of compounding because we didn't have no money to look at. I.e., if you got some money in the bank and you can watch the interest go into your money, you can see the compounding. But if you're spending it every day, which we did, we ain't no exception. That thing hit the check. Remember the days we used to write hot checks?
oh my God,
They can't catch us now. Statute of limitations over. But
that
we used
was
to
up
write them
there.
hot checks. Oh,
Hey, hot check. Hey, don't forget those overseas floaters.
ooh, we used to float a check. We could float a check
You
with the
wrote that,
best of
yeah,
them.
you wrote that check, boy. Ooh, that thing was floating all the way across the Atlantic, man. Because we knew the bank wasn't gonna. We used to write them at the BX or the NCO Club. Man,
7 days. It would
7
take
days.
7 days.
You remember 7 days?
You can write that check 7 days before payday. Now the
Se-
problem with that is we definitely weren't doing any compounding because we were spending the check before we was getting paid. And on top of that, we had a full-time job and both of us had part-time jobs.
Part-time jobs.
And to this day, we couldn't tell you nothing that we spent money on during that time period.
Mm-mm.
We didn't buy no stocks. We didn't buy no mutual funds, no life insurance, except for the one that the government gave us. We didn't have anything to show for that time period, and we had a lot of money coming in. But
Yes.
we had fun. But fun ain't a revenue source either. But it's a
No,
great commodity to remember things on. But that was why we were broke.
that's
Now the
right.
last one down there is financial literacy. It never ends. And in the day and age now, we have access to so much information at our fingertips. The problem what I see with information out there now is you have to know what right looks like. JD, what's an example of something financial literally that you follow that gives you a lot of good education, but doesn't steer you down a bad path?
Well, one of the things that, far as would you say, far as what right looks like,
Yeah.
man, I'm gonna tell you, one of the things is paying myself first. Now, a actual book, there's several like actual books out there. I mean, some of the authors might be controversial, but you had the Rich Dad Poor Dad, but that wasn't out when we were younger.
No, I didn't
Um,
get to that one until I was in Japan. I think I was like 29 or 30 by that time.
yeah, and I was
Robert
in
Kiyosaki.
Carlton Sheets was a real estate guy. That was in the 90s. I just didn't have the brain power or the mindset to follow that. Who knows? I could have been a real estate millionaire now if I had to
What's
follow that Carlton Sheets.
the book for
But
Babylon? The
oh, but see, the yeah, I forgot the name of it,
is it the
something.
richest man in Babylon?
Richest Man in Babylon.
Yeah.
But you know what? I didn't get a hold of a lot of those books until maybe in the last 20 years. So the things that we didn't really have access or was aware, so it was some ignorance, not in a negative way, but it just, if you're not surrounded by that, you're not going to hear it. One of the key from, from the old school, it was just a kind of a, don't do this. So one of the things was, don't write bad checks, don't bounce
We did.
checks. Yeah, that was like the thing. So but you didn't hear a lot, or even we weren't aware of a lot of stuff that provide that foundation of, how you need to save. I think one of the first things and savings situations we had was the GI Bill. That was like, that was the first major, in my opinion, second major for me, financial decision as a young adult was, do you want to sign up for the GI Bill? What does that mean? Will you get college? How does it mean? What does it mean with money? $100 a month for 12 months. And a lot of my companions in that dorm room said no, because they were like, yo, I can't afford my checks. This is the 80s. I can giving up $100 a month. So it was more directional. It was never like guidance.
I will say one of the benefits of the at that time it was called the Montgomery GI Bill. Then it since got switched to the 9/11 GI Bill. It afforded for my daughter to go to college free, 4 years of education free, 4 years of books being paid for free, and a stipend as she went to college. And but you don't see that when you're 19. You don't see that when you're 18. You only see what's in front of you and what you know. I was fortunate. I had just started college courses. Matter of fact, this is my second base of going to college courses. And one of the classes I selected in college was a basic finance class.
Mm.
And the instructor had the very first day of class, he says, "Hey, how many people brush their teeth?" And I was like, "What is this guy talking about? We in a finance class." What he was trying to convey to us was you have to create habits. JD said up front, you got to pay yourself first, but you got to know how to pay yourself first. Now, when it comes to financial literacy, don't jump out and buy you one of those books off the bookshelf at Barnes and Nobles, because here's the thing about it is that book is meant to be sold to you to make money for the writer. It's not
Yeah,
necessarily able to comprehend the way they've written that book, because there's nothing new in finance. Finance, Bitcoin, new terminology, but ultimately the same concept of a vehicle used to build wealth. So here's my recommendation when it comes to financial literacy: go to the library, go to the bookstore, and get a kid's book. Now, people are like, "Nah, man, not a kid's book." Yeah, a kid's book. You know why? Because a kid's book doesn't have a lot of jargon in it, and it's going to help you better understand the fundamental conversation when it comes to wealth building, financial languages. So when you start looking at TV, you start listening to podcasts, you know what they're talking about. And I'll be looking, I'm working on my Spanish now. I'm trying to get my Spanish down. And as I learn a new word, as I hear it, it comes commonplace to me. It's not something I'll be like, "Oh, por favor." "Oh, thank you. I got it." You ain't never got to say it to me again. And that's what finance is. But what most people do is they jump out there for financial literacy in these big books, man, and try to learn these terminologies and try to apply them. And it's like you don't have a foundation yet. So read a kid's book. Read a kid's book with your kid. Read a kid book with your spouse. Read a kid book with your friends. And until you can digest that book entirely, then you can go out and say, "Okay, I need to start." You can start with number one, building a financial foundation, but you gotta understand what you're talking about so you can ask the proper questions.
exactly. Exactly. And far as the old school way of looking at it, when you was bringing up the kids book, it actually brought me back to my childhood. And one of the things that in you talking about with learning and improving in Spanish, a lot of the literacy isn't in a book itself. It can
Mhm.
be from where you're at, talking to someone in Spanish. Oh, boom. What does that say? Oh, where you from? Oh, okay. Then you start saying Buenos dias, and you getting literate by just communicating. So when you hear people talk about financing, or if you see someone, you start asking them, say, "Oh man, well, how did you get this? When did you start
Yep.
doing rentals?" And if I really had to think about this, see, I grew up in the church. I didn't pay attention a lot, but there was always tithes.
Tithes,
So
yeah. It's a habit.
tithes was probably the Bible probably was our first book, financial literacy. You know what I mean? So forget about what, oh man, some preachers did blah blah blah. Yeah, but if you think about it, tithes. That was the first time my aunt was talking about 10%.
Yep.
And regardless of what, who did what in the building fund, you started hearing about that. It's like, oh, then you started when the preacher comes into town, they have the love offering. So it's like you see those traditions of, okay, wow, so people are taking 10% of their money and they're putting it away. Why it didn't stuck, I don't know. But
Because
that's
you had to go through life first.
exactly, we had to go through
Yeah.
life. 10% of your fund, your money. Of course, they're talking a higher and spiritual goal, but it is a basis of financing. So yeah, so when you start thinking about it, it's like you said, when you start thinking about it, a lot of this stuff is all around us. When they're codified in these books, and especially when you go on, something very basic, like, and that's a great idea.
Look,
Quote unquote child book that can break everything down. I mean, from banking, what's a bank for? What's checks for? What's credit cards for? Yeah, I think that's an excellent idea.
once you get the foundation, everything else is pretty much easy when it comes to financial and wealth building. It's one thing that stuck with me from my grandfather. He worked out there in the woods cutting down trees.
Woo!
No, I'm not built like that. I don't want y'all to be confused on that one because I'm not going out there. But one thing he did for me and my brothers was he would give us on his payday, he would give us $1 and a
Mm,
box of donuts. We all had a different kind of donut. I was a coconut donut type of guy back then. You used to put $1 on it and a box of donuts. I'm like $1. Today $1 is nothing. But back then, he had already separated it out that he was going to show us that habit. And we got used to seeing that habit. And that's the thing about it is we all, like JD said, even coming into church, getting that habit of tithing and doing 10%. We've all been introduced to that habit. Now we have to build upon it and
right.
make sure that we're expanding on it. This is the thing I recently I've been hearing a lot of, and it's been the last several years. The fire movement, retiring
Oh
early,
yeah.
basically. And I said, wait a minute, why are we trying to make it a 65? When we start working, pretty much a lot of us at 16. I know I started working at 16. Work program, you had to get your little slip sign from school so you go out to work after school. But we start working because we know work. We're no stranger to work. Our parents work. We see work. We want to get out there and work. We got to refine that and say, okay, if I go to work at 16 and I put in basically almost 30 something, 40, 50 years, why can't I just put in 20 years and then have a
Right.
choice if I want to work past that? Do I want to work past 50? Do I want to work past 35? Do I want to work past 40? You know what's odd is if you tell somebody you retired at 40, they look at you strange.
Oh yeah.
Give you that
That's
strange look.
facts.
Another good one is I like Dave Ramsey. And I think this people, everybody got their opinion and stuff. And I tell people like this: if you're not doing anything, come on now, let's do something.
Something
Quit
good.
playing. Quit playing. You play too much. If you're not doing anything, you really can't be in the conversation until you get prepared to be in the conversation. And I like Dave Ramsey's first two steps. He calls them the baby steps. I mean, this is the simplest foundation of success. He says save $1,000. Now, JD, I don't know how long it took you,
Ooh.
but it took me till I was 21 to save my very first $1,000. And there was a guy named Jim Rago that pulled me and a friend of mine aside in Germany and opened up our first mutual funds. I had
Wow.
three different mutual funds from Putnam. I don't even think Putnam Investment's still around anymore.
Wow.
And I walked it up to the mailbox and I pulled out my statements and I looked at them. I said, man, I saved $1,000. Now I'm 21. This is like 1991, 92, and I had never had $1,000 just in one place at one time. Now it came through my hands. You know how I do, JD. It come through your hands
Well,
all the time.
I'm waiting on you. I'm waiting on you. I'm gonna tell you now.
But that was the first time that I had saved $1,000. How about yourself?
Oh man, it was in Mississippi, Biloxi, Mississippi, Keesler Air Force Base. I got I wasn't spending anything. I didn't have a car, uh, living in the dorm, and I wasn't sending, a lot of people, oh, you gotta send your money home. I was saving my money. I was buying clothes, whatever, but was saving. It was unconscious, but I was actually watching it grow. And I think when I first re-enlisted in 1989, I was about 21. I was still at Keesler, and I got a bonus at the time. And at the time we had a little bonus. I think it was like a 0.5, they multiply it by the years. This is old military stuff. And I got that little bit of money, and I was like, wow, I had a couple $1,000. It's a couple $1,000. But just like Abe said, that's when I bought my first car, and I didn't see that money since. And I done seen it go through my hands fast. And it took me a while
Right.
after buying that car, went through different car, went to Germany, until I developed that habit of like, oh man, let it sit for a little bit. Let it calm.
Hey, you said forget about that compounding. We ain't compounding nothing
Oh, I
here. We
was
spend it.
compounding nothing.
I mean, dude, we spent money. Oh, I saved in the mutual fund that first 1,000,
But that was
but
good.
as soon as I got back to the States, I bought a new car, and that money was gone.
Yeah.
I didn't know what compounding was. I didn't
Oh
know
man,
that
if I'd have kept those, like in my early stock
patient. Oh,
with money paper, you only if you remember the money paper in Germany, that's when I started. I had my first mutual fund was I can't think of the name. It wasn't Putnam, it was Burger. Do you remember Burger?
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
That was my first one, but just couldn't stay with it.
Now,
Sold it. Yeah.
what I did do is started to dig that financial hole. I got
Oh,
my
I
first
remember
credit
you did.
card.
I remember.
I got my first credit card, and I was like, you know what? I had good intentions. I was gonna pay some stuff off, which I didn't realize how you can not pay nothing off with a credit card. I was gonna do my own. We'll say debt consolidation. We'll put it that
Right.
way.
Right.
When it was all said and done, maybe 10 years later, that credit card initial limit was $5,000. When I paid that credit card off, it was $10,000.
Yeah.
Don't ask me what other 5,000 came from or went to. Whatever. When I finally paid it off, I ended up paying off $10,000 on a credit card that was originally 5,000. So what we try to do here in the old school is use some examples of you ain't got to touch that hot stove too.
No, don't do it. Don't do
Okay.
it.
Now some of y'all still gonna touch it, and we're gonna give you some advice on how not to touch the hot stove. Here it is, because like everything else, the building part is the most important part. These are the parts that we look back on and said, "Hey, if somebody would have just pulled us to the side, we wish somebody would have told us this, and we would have followed the instructions." Technically, that's not true because we had to learn the hard way a couple things. So, but learn from my examples, and do it differently. Here's the first thing I would have when I started working. I wish I'd have known when I was, and this is not when you get into your career job. This is when you're in high school or you cutting grass or you're doing some type of task around the house, and your parents pay you. Start a savings habit early with goals.
Right.
The key to that sentence is with goals, because the goals help you say, okay, I've achieved something. It's also a building block for you because now you're saying, okay, I might want to save $100. I saved $100. You reached that goal. Now I want to set myself another goal. It also lets you know that you can do better. You can keep moving forward. Now, as an adult in this financial world for a while, I have goals. And I'm like, okay, but my goals are different than if I was 17 and coming out of going into high school. If you look at my other episode from last week, it'll also show you where you can either work with a college student or a high school student. Do the same habits. But this is for adults. JD, how many grown people we know that make good money? We'll put it in
Oh my
context.
God.
We'll say they make about 200,000 in the whole household, living paycheck to paycheck.
Oh yeah. There's plenty because it's a lot of us don't have that patience and understand how to, what's that self gratification. It's like how to slow yourself down, how to wait or save up. One of the good lessons you gave my brother is like, I said, man, I love it how you be traveling up. You was like, yo, man, just pay on it. Just pay on it. Plan that thing out and pay on it. And but
I'll
but like but if your mind is if you're in a mindset, folks, of, oh, I see the advertisement, I want to go today or next month, you're going to pay premium. You're not going to have the time to have selection and to go out there and say, well, man, maybe I can go on this site and get that. Maybe I can talk to a travel agent over here. Maybe I can check a different site. So yeah, patience. Um, but
let,
yeah,
let
yeah,
me tell you who
I
the
know a
devil
lot of,
is.
especially in our line of work, there's a lot of six figures. Oh, and entitlement. We can't forget that, a
You
lot of
know,
us.
it's
Yeah.
you know what? I don't understand how you get entitled when you was living poor, or you
Oh my
living in
God.
a economic situation that didn't afford that example to be seen firsthand. You might have
Well,
saw
see,
it from
that's it.
afar.
What you just said. Your money now has to be seen because no one's going to see
Okay.
your house. And a lot of people, especially our age, but the younger folks, Gen Z, or excuse me, yeah, Generation X, that's the one after us, right? I can't remember.
Man,
The
we
Gen
call them
Xers,
Jets.
yeah, oh no, Gen Zs. The Gen Zs is after us, right? Anyway, so those folks, they're Instagram. They're gonna go to Miami. They're gonna walk around. They're gonna spend. They're gonna get on JetBlue. They're gonna get on the other ones. They're gonna be crunched up just to get somewhere so they can take pictures. And it's like, wow, what if you'd have just saved up, planned that thing out a year in advance? You could have been like across the world. You could have put some stamps in your passport.
I, I,
So,
I tell everybody for social media, man. I said, stop looking at the direct picture and look behind the picture.
mm,
If you stop and say, okay, I see what you want me to see, let me see what's the backside of it. Man, I've seen people would have gorgeous pictures and they had a TV on a crate. It's like, hold up, why is a TV on the crate? So I always look past the picture, you know.
I agree, and that's a
That
good
way
point.
you see the real story behind it. There's nothing wrong with going out there and enjoying your life, but that's not what's being said.
No, 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 no.
But there is a
You gotta
right
build
way to
that. You
try to
gotta,
do it.
just like your this slide is. You have to build to that, and you have to sometimes be patient,
Yeah,
and you're gonna get it.
look, and it look, it's a guarantee that you will get it. Now we're looking back down the road as we move to another chapter up another road, but we're trying to tell you how to get down that road even better than we got down it. This number two one, man, is to select jobs with a strategy. I wish I'd
Mm,
have known this growing up. You know what? Summertime comes. You say, hey, you gotta get a summer job. Get a summer job that's going to benefit you. Prime example, let's say you go work for McDonald's. Have no problem working for McDonald's, think it's a great corporation. Check and see if they got stock options with McDonald's. You're already staying at home. You're already not paying no rent. You going to work. You're learning that discipline. Learn that next step. If you want to be a doctor or a lawyer or a dentist, go and get a job in those offices. Don't get a fast food job. If you know good and well fast food is not where you want to be at. Get a job that's going to benefit you, and especially if you're going off to college and you know you're going off to college and you know you're going to be studying this field, go find a part-time job in it. You may need to volunteer for that job. You may need to take no salary, but the important thing is you get experience, but it's also a job with a meaning to it versus saying, hey, we took plenty of jobs. Even in the military, I worked part-time for like 10 years. And I took jobs because I wanted to try stuff. You know what? I want to work at the movie theater. You saw me at the movie theater. We used to wonder why y'all was at the movie theater because you're like, man, this movie's trash. But I wanted to work at a movie theater, and I learned what reel to reels do. I learned what the sound does and how to turn the movie over and all that kind of stuff because I wanted to try it. So I took jobs when I had a job, so I didn't have to worry about having a job, so I could see what it was like. Now, granted, I don't know what I did with that money, but I did try jobs that didn't relate to my own job.
yeah, but that build that foundation. It may, and I agree with you. It may. Now, I remember you at that movie theater too, but it may not have built that financial, meaning that coin stacking, but it put it right here, and a lot of
Yeah,
us still need that because we were still growing. And I like how you said about the strategies, because what was that, Stephen Covey with the
oh, 7
seven
habits of
principles.
effective living.
There you
Is that what
go.
it was?
Effective leadership or effective something. I can't remember, folks. But one of them was beginning with the end in mind. And it's
Yes.
like, so you're like a kid, you're thinking like, man, I got to go get a summer job, but okay, how am I going to do this? And then just get a little guidance. Hopefully parents or some type of mentor is like, you get that job at McDonald's, it's not the fries and the customers and the burgers and the sweeping, it's the end in mind. There used to be, they don't show them, and you notice this, Abe, they don't show these commercials anymore where they had the kid going to McDonald's, and
Oh,
then
go to
then he's a
college.
manager and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah. And a
I
lot of
wonder why
these,
we got away from that, man. There was some great
I don't
commercials.
know. They was very empowering. Those guys and some of those kids are now franchisees. They got 4 and 5 McDonald's, and the McDonald's are expensive, folks.
But the best way to get to one is to work at one.
That's right.
You work at one, you already in there, you get the franchisee stuff, you go to McDonald U, and you
McDonald
become.
U. Exactly. Yep.
I forgot all about them commercials, man. There used to be some good commercials. We used to
They
have
were
some
very
great
good
commercials.
commercials. Little
I,
black kids too, but yeah, you would see him. He was putting his clothes on, and and he's working, and then he's like a manager and stuff. So yeah,
I challenge anybody out there that looks at this video, go look at some of them old McDonald commercials
I'm
and
gonna
see
look
how
for it.
impactful they were. Number three, develop an educational routine. And what I mean by that is find something that works for you. Find a book that you like. Find a podcast that you like. But here's the thing: the most important thing is you have to have a level of literacy to know what wrong looks like, because there's a lot of people in this industry that will try to feed you a line and make it seem like it's really shiny, but it's really kind of not. But you got to know what right looks like. That way you say, oh, no, that's not how that works. If you look at something and you can't understand it, you need to start studying and educating yourself on it so it makes sense to you. Because at the end of the day, you still need to be able to ask the right questions. And for me, my routine is when I go out in the afternoon, I start listening to podcasts. And I listen
Mhm.
to different podcasts on the same subjects. And it's immensely how much information is out there. But they put it in a compact of 45 minutes. So if I'm walking for 2 hours, that's like two podcasts. JD, what you get out there and do?
No, I do that as well. When you put those books and those
Oh, the audiobooks too. I forgot about those.
yeah, those audiobooks and those positive podcasts, because a lot of those early books that we were talking about, the Dave Ramsey's, the Stephen Covey's, the Richest Man in Babylon. A lot of those books, yeah, I mean, I think the Richest Man in Babylon is public domain, but you can get a lot of those books, meaning that you can get them, probably get it free, but you can get those things on Audible, stick in your ear, and you start learning by osmosis. You know, some people
Oh,
used to take that as a joke, but when you repetitively hearing that, it's bound to seep in. Sort of like when your parents used to used to repetitively tell you to
clean
do
your room,
something.
clean your
Pick
room,
this up,
clean your
put
room,
that
clean
down.
your room.
And it's gonna, you might try to ignore it, but then you grow up and you find yourself straightening your bed every morning because you remember your mom and dad said, "Hey, straighten that bed." You know what I mean? So, but yeah, those
I do. I
things
make my
are
bed every morning.
is a great educational routine. Um,
What's funny is, man,
yep.
we were talking about things that Amazon. People know how to order on Amazon like it's no problem.
Oh
And
man.
Amazon is the true devil of shopping. Man, you can order
Whew,
something today. Be like, oh, I need to order something right quick. It's gonna be here this afternoon. See,
that's right.
it's readily available. So use that same energy on saying, you know what? I just went to the store. I bought something. I got 20 cents in change. Get yourself a little jar. Drop it in there.
Now,
Routines.
that's old
Routines
school
create
right there.
habits.
That's old
I,
school.
I
I
still do it.
got
Well, hey,
three
you know,
jars.
look,
I got
what's
three
different?
jars still with change in it.
You remember we used to have ashtrays in the car?
Oh my God.
It would full. It'd be full with change.
Yeah, except when I was running low on gas. When I was in and I was working part time and I was running low, that ashtray, I'm
Look,
dumping it out, trying to get some gas, folks.
look. We ain't even got no ashtrays in cars now, so I don't even keep. I keep coins in a middle thing that has a plug in it. But that's we used to do some crazy stuff back in the days. Here's a good one, and that's a good lead into this one. Use investment returns to build. What I want to do with that is I want to say, let's say you get McDonald's. Let's say your strategy is go work at McDonald's for the summer, and McDonald's does have profit sharing. So what they do is they take a portion of your salary and you can buy a stock. Now, every one of those stocks pays you what we call dividends. Those
Mm-mm,
dividends, we'll say, is 25 cents. And let's say because you're in the program, you got 4 shares. Well, you got 25 cents. Every quarter, you get $1. Well, that dollar is going to be reinvested. And which you say, well, it's only $1. Yeah, but that dollar will buy you a fractional share of your primary shares. So now you already got the 4 shares that you work for. That $1 is going to buy you a fractional shares, and it's going to continue to grow and continue to grow. And next thing you know is you're going to have enough shares to buy you 1 share every time the dividends are paid.
that's right.
Dividends are cash that a company has that they pass on to the stock owners. Remember that now. If you're not a stock owner, you don't get it. As a stock owner, you took that job at McDonald's, you went into the profit sharing program, you purchased stocks, and now those stocks are paying for themselves. So
That's
you're
right.
building something that pays yourself. Now, if you go to the kids' book, you're looking for what's called passive income because now you can get income from your investments. Now, go to the time factor. So let's say you did that for your first 4 years of college. You worked at McDonald's. Now you got 1,000 shares. Think about it, 1,000 shares with 25 cents paid to you every quarter. It's building on itself. You get out of college, you're only 22. You say, okay, I'm gonna start my life, but you know what? I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing. And then in the 10 more years, you got 50,000 shares at 25 cents a share.
Mm.
You have generated something that's an investment that builds on itself. And that's the thing about it is that building patience and time comes in at creating something that you can build on so you can see the return on that investment throughout your life as you start to build it. That's my example for that one.
No, I agree. Definitely, that goes into the compound interest.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a lot of us are on the receiving end um, of that interest, meaning the banks are making the money off of
Oh,
us.
banks making a killing.
Yeah, they're making their money because, with Federal Reserve, this is part of the game. I'm not, a legal finance person, but I know they can borrow. If they're lending money, they can borrow X amount of dollars, and they'll the money that they're borrowing from, say, the Federal Reserve or whatever institution is very minuscule, very small interest rate. But when they lend it, they're going to make so much interest, and we're usually on that receiving end. And even I know you can really break that down more technically, but we're usually on that receiving end, and that's part of the life, right? Now, but the part that I like what you're saying is, if you start saving and turning the tables on that, and you say, okay, if I get this one share and I do a little research, and it's not something, oh, Nvidia, oh, this one, that one. It might look like it's splitting 3 and 4 times, but it's like, okay, well, are they paying a dividend? Some people research it down to where they get paid monthly. They get monthly checks.
Oh yeah, I got a stock that pays me monthly dividends.
See?
And
So,
and oh, I skipped something that's going to be important in what we were just talking
oh, the
about.
accountability team. Yeah, I saw that.
Accountability team, missed that one. You know
Hmm.
what? When it's accountability team, the reason why I put this on the slide was get with a group of people. Get with a group of people that will you feel trusted in their opinion, working just as hard as you to learn, not to make money, to learn. Because money is the byproduct of a process that you've learned. So if you're not learning anything and you're just criticizing, that's not the person that needs to be in your accountability team.
No, no, no,
And
no.
we know a lot of bashers, and they can't be in the accountability team. You want somebody to say, "Hey," and I've had friends that did real estate. Well, at that time, real estate was my thing, but we still held each other accountable to understanding and doing the process, and we still shared information. So put yourself with a group of people and say, let's set goals for each other. Hey, what do we want our goal to be? We meet in January, we have lunch with each other and say, okay, at the end of the year, I want X, Y, and Z goal to be completed. And hold each other accountable as you go through the year. Don't be bashing nobody. You're not better than anyone in that sense. What you're doing is you're trying to all build a good foundation that fits you and your lifestyle. Because some people are flashy, some people are not. That doesn't say everybody can't build wealth. What you do with your other money after you paid yourself first is up to you. I tell people is you can still have Starbucks, you can still have an Apple phone, but you can't not pay yourself first and expect to be able to retain that and not go through those financial hardships, not go through that anxiety when you got to figure out where that next bill payment is going to come in there, or something happens unexpectedly, and now you're like, oh man, where am I gonna get the money from? Well, we just saying pay yourself first, build you a nice strategy, execute that sales strategy, continue to educate yourself, and find people that are in that same vein. Now, here's an interesting thing. Everybody in your accountability team might not look and act like you.
That's right.
Plain and simple. Might not look like you, might not act like you. Because the accountability team is about information and growth. It's not about what you look like, what you act like, because everybody's different. Accept that. But when y'all sit down and y'all want to be accountable to each other, expect what y'all have learned and understood and pass on to each other because y'all are working towards the same goal to be financially successful and build wealth for your family and your next generations. Now, that hard one at the end, investment or not emotional. Oh, look, people won't remember WorldCard. Some people will, some people won't. It was like 25 cents a share. And I said, you know what? I'm about to be rich. Oh man, I bought that thing on a Monday. Wasn't versed in financial literature. Didn't check up on none of my stocks. On Thursday, the company was gone.
Mm.
So whatever little money I had invested was gone. Because you know what? I got excited about some money I didn't have. I said, man, if I let this go up to $100, I'm gonna be rich. I was broke. That money
Yeah.
was gone. I had no way to get it back. Those stocks were no longer being traded. And those were some hard lessons, but they were valuable lessons. So don't get emotionally tied to any of your investments because they're vehicles to build wealth, but they also go be liquidated one day.
Oh wow, that you hit that one. I mean, you hit both of those out of the park. I agree with you on the accountability team, and because one of the thing a lot of us, and it took me years to get over this, folks, is to be vulnerable
Oh yeah.
because no one wants to feel embarrassed or that they haven't made those steps like their peers or even folks below, in age wise or financially wise or ahead. So they rather not say, because again, we're going back to that Facebook, Instagram. But when you're having a real accountability team, they're going to see when you try to push them away because you made some mistakes. You
Yep.
didn't do the thing and you didn't invest when you didn't meet the goal. You didn't, and then so now you don't want to talk about it or you want to back away. But when you're vulnerable and you say, you know what, here you go. Hey man, I, my emergency account is still at only $500. I bought another car when I said I wasn't, but and then you say I made this excuse. I had to do this. Oh yeah, I went on this trip, man. I didn't make this decision on that. A real good accountability team, like Abe was saying, is going to tell you, hey man, yeah, you might be screwing up, but here's how we're gonna get back on track. You don't need
Be
nobody to pat
corrective.
you on the butt, but you need someone to be straight, stern, and honest and hold you accountable as you hold yourself accountable. That was the one on that one. So you got to understand that you're not different than anyone else. A lot of people don't want to talk about it. They don't want to say nothing. But that is the very first when you go to the bank and you try to borrow money, they're gonna pull up your credit report. And that is so unemotional, huh? Hey, they don't care. They're gonna see 500. They're gonna look at you like, so you're 35 and you're
Yeah, you got
500.
475. You got a
You
475.
got 475 and you make $50,000 a year. So they're gonna be like, oh, okay, and so they're gonna look at you unemotional, and so that's what I'm saying. So might as well talk to your accountability team. Compare your credit reports. Say, okay, guys, who's gonna get that 800 first? Who's gonna get that 600? Who's gonna get that 500? Even if you do it with yourself. So yeah, that accountability team. Oh my God, I wish I had had one that I listened to in my 20s.
Yeah, we
So
used to know each other, but we wasn't accountable for each
no.
other.
And I heard old heads. I heard old heads say, hey, savings bond, savings bond, savings bond. I wish I'd have, people say, oh man, them savings bonds ain't gonna do nothing. But I wish I had have did. That would have been a foundation. That would have been a foundation.
The
So yeah,
Series EE savings bonds. I remember them.
seriously, you know what I mean? They used to come around and get us to sign that little blue thing, And the other thing I want to jump on to is about the investment return that we already talked about building, and that's that compounding. But that the emotional part is a kicker, really on everything. Oh man, so you hit this one out the park, bro.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's funny is like the market, they'll be like, hey, the market's down. The market was down when you went in it.
yeah,
It's a cycle. The market goes up, market goes down.
and it's
And
built
I
on emotion, right, Abe? All of
yeah,
that's
because
built on emotion.
we're not controlling the market. We're just a part of the market trying to make a living off of it.
That's
So
right.
even when it goes down, I call it paper money because unless you take money out, guess what? It doesn't make a difference. Now
That's right.
there's a thing called bad investments.
Oh yeah.
So make sure you do your homework. That goes all back to this educational stuff, and it goes back to setting your goals and not falling in love with an investment. All that plays into part to building the personal kind of how you're going to build your investment strategies. There are stocks that I buy because I know, like Disney. I buy Walt Disney because Walt Disney caters to kids,
That's right.
and kids don't have jobs.
Mm-mm.
When you go out there one of these parks, either in Florida, Japan, Germany, California, and you see
Mm-mm.
these kids running around these parks, guess what? They ain't got no job. They're
Mm-mm.
too young to have a job. They only like 9, 10, maybe 11 or 12. Some of them newborns. But the park knows that experience, that emotional attachment that you have to Walt Disney and want to share it with your cousin, your nieces, your daughters, or whatever, they're like, we want to get you.
That's
Look, they
it.
still re-release the movies they released 20 years ago.
Oh
A
yeah.
kid don't a kid that's 2 don't know CGI. They don't care about the special effects. They just this is a great movie. And we want to share that experience. That's why I like purchasing Walt Disney. Now, Walt Disney does pay dividends. So when I'm like, oh, okay, well, it's a dividend paying stock. Your investment strategy will grow as you grow. But some things are fundamental, like that's going to always be my fundamental stock. Mutual funds, CDs. For those that want to be out there in crypto, get on out there in crypto, but make sure you educate yourself on crypto. One thing with crypto is I can't remember that key, and I ain't trying to remember that key. The key is too long, and if you lose the key, you lose access to your money. So keep that in
Yeah,
mind. Do your homework, do your research. If it works for you, it works for you. But one thing, pay yourself first and understand why and how you want to do that. But their emotional side of investments and wealth building will never change because you're going to have ups and downs. You're going to get excited
that's
when you
right.
reach your goal, but you're going to see the market drop one day, like a natural disaster may happen, and it might stop the market. That doesn't mean you lost your investment. That means that something has impacted the entire market. Don't react to something that impacts everybody. React to something that impacts you. Now, I liquidated my first investment from my mutual funds to buy myself a Honda Accord. Yeah, baby. And remember I used to ride around with that phone in the car, didn't really
Oh
go out.
yeah.
So that fundamental foundation was gone. I spent all that money. It would be 5 years and a trip back overseas before I got back into it.
Mm,
It's crazy how much time has passed and what we could have compounded
wow.
if we had
Yeah.
some patience and we were building stuff. But we built a lot of knowledge. Now, some of
Yeah,
it was
that's
through some
fact.
hard times, but we built a lot and we're sharing that information now and say, hey, look at it differently. Don't stay in the same routine. Don't stay in the same rut. Anybody can do anything we've talked about. You just got to have the attitude and want to do it. And always ask a question. Man,
Yeah.
I ask questions all kind of people all the time. Still do.
Facts.
Okay, hold on. You got to get some publicity out. Wait a minute, because I got a third slide. But bam, this was
Boom.
my example slide. I did 3 slides today. I forgot. Did 3 slides. Here's an example of what I was talking about. Patience and times. Okay, dividends. One share, 25 cents. And most shares pay out every quarter. So 4 times a year, you'll get paid based off of how many shares and how much the dividends. All this information is out there. Ultimately, the first goal that I would set with that is I would set the goal to purchase enough shares to buy myself a share every time I got paid.
Mm,
Now you don't have to do it. So instead of you get 4 shares a year. And it's now you need the time part, patience and time, because over time, those 4 shares next year, you buy 8 shares. Next year, you buy 12 shares because now you got more money put in there. Your mutual funds, collection of people. A mutual fund is a collection of people pulling all their resources to invest together. There's different types of mutual funds. Go out there on YouTube University, say, hey, what type of mutual funds they have out there. But ultimately, it's a collaboration between you and other people pulling all your resources to purchase your investments.
that's right.
That rule of 72. I've heard the rule of 72 so many times.
Oh my God.
And I was like, man, what's the rule of 72? Basically, how long it takes for your money to double.
The double. Yep.
So 72 times 4% takes 18 years for your money. If you're receiving 18%, 4%, you're going to take 18 years for your money to double. Now, here's the funny part. Your bank only paying you 0.001%.
See,
So how long you
that's
think your money in your bank
that's the
account can take to
game.
double?
That's the game.
That's if you're earning 4%. It's going to take you 18 years for your money to double at 4%. So when you put money in the bank, it's a great safe investment. But understand this: 0.001 is not the same as 4%. So keep that in mind. I don't know. I think you remember this right here, man. That dividend reinvestment program,
Oh yeah,
DRIPS.
yeah. Drips still around. It's
You
more
can.
accessible now.
So what a drip is now, dividend reinvestment program is you can go to that company. So let's say you got a Wendy's. You can go to Wendy's, go to the website, go to investor relations. Pretty much if you go to the bottom of the page, it'll take you to investor relations where the contact information is at. And it'll say, hey, we got a dividend reinvestment program. I purchase Wendy's stocks through a drip. And it's been years. The dividend reinvestment program still alive and kicking.
Yeah.
My dividends are reinvested and they send me a little statement every year. Let me know I'm buying more stocks. But those programs are available to you so you don't have to go through a third party. A third party for us would be E-Trade. So I'm using
Right.
E-Trade to go through and purchase it. E-Trade
Right.
retains my stocks, information, everything else. This one here, you're going directly to the company.
Yeah,
Now,
remember back in the day, we used to actually you can ask for your stock certificate if you wanted to see
oh
it.
man, you get in the frame still for kids. There's a
Yeah.
website out there where you can get
Oh
a
yeah, I was gonna do that for my daughter. Yeah.
they can
That,
buy you can buy one share and they'll put it in a pretty frame for you and send it to you.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Make sure your kid actually invests in before you buy that. Uh, don't be hanging stuff on the wall. They'd be like, "No, I don't even do that no more, Dad."
You see a broken frame, they
Trying to go
probably
back
wouldn't
and
know
sell
where to
that
say.
thing.
They wouldn't know where to cash that thing is, though.
Your systematic investment plans. For those people that like to set and forget it, go out there to your mutual fund, go on the page and say, "Hey, do you have a systematic investment plan?" What it is, it automates the process. Every month at the same time, it'll invest in your investment. Let's say you got a mutual fund and you want to invest $50 a month. On the 15th of every month, it'll pull that $50 and invest in that mutual fund for you. All you
Right.
got to do is check on it. Systematic investment plan. That's how we used to do it when we couldn't, when we were spending money, we would
Yeah.
pay ourselves first. That way, let it go through the systematic investment plan. I loved it. I loved it when I was coming up earlier because now some things I got to do manually. But back then, I used to love it. That number six, compounding is a tool of growth.
Oh yeah.
The Here's the crazy thing, man. You can't see compound on little numbers.
Wow, that's a good way to look at that. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, so people be looking at you. Oh man, I don't see any change. You got $20. You're really not going to see a lot on $20. There's something there, but most people want to see. In order to see, you have to build. Then you have to be patient when you build, and then the time comes in and watch it compounds. When you see it compound for the first time, you're gonna be like, "Man, I wish I was doing this sooner."
Oh my God, yeah.
So you got to start looking at the tools that are out there. Compounder is the best tool for you. Here's one, man. This last one, man, is what I was out playing golf with some gentlemen, and it's three generations of wealth builders. And I want to say it might have been 10 or 15 years between the two gentlemen I was talking to, but we were all talking about wealth, and we were talking about the tools of wealth and building wealth. And I thanked them. I said, you know what? I appreciate the fact that we have this conversation. And it was like, no, well, you doing what I'm doing. I said, you know what? No, you don't get it. You're the next generation ahead of me. I
Mm,
should be able to talk to this generation ahead of me and be able to ask questions and share information and talk back and forth and maybe educate you on something that you know you're not doing now, or you educate me on something that I'm doing. But I also should be able to look behind me at the generation behind me, and all three of us should be in the same conversation. There's no reason why those three generations of us standing there wouldn't be in the same conversation. We may be at different points in wealth building, but we all should be in the same conversation. We may be using different tools of wealth building,
that's right.
but we're all in the same conversation. You run into situations when you have people that are afraid to ask questions, don't feel comfortable, feel ashamed, when it shouldn't be. All three generations should be in that conversation saying, "Hey, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Hey, how's your portfolio going?" That language and those words shouldn't be unfamiliar to you. So that's why I put down there three generational wealth builders.
I like that because, and it can happen anywhere. Just like you said on the golf course, which I'm picking up. I got two
Yeah,
irons,
look.
got some used golf balls, and I haven't made my appointment yet for my training. But it is a place where you can learn, and it's not a stereotype, but it's a fact that people do learn on the golf course. But you can also learn at the domino table. I had a little buddy over, man. We were playing dominoes, and he's like younger in his family. I was like, but you asked the question, hey man, so you enjoying a good job? Okay, yeah, boom. So you like this new relocate, this new he's work fireman. So you like this new spot? Boom. So how's the pay? See, a lot of people didn't talk about pay. So well, how's the pay? I didn't ask for his numbers. I just said, well, how's your pay? Pay looking good? Okay, cool. Oh, you planning a trip. Now you putting money in your stuff? You putting money in your 401k? And he's like, well, not yet, not yet. I'm trying to, I still want to live life. I said, I hear you, bro. I said, I hear you. I said, but you still want to put a tiny bit away, man. Just and seeing those conversations is reflective of what I had when I was younger.
Yeah.
Not, it was very small. It was some people would say it in passing and we would blow it off, but you can still have that generation talking to it. Talk to your kids, talking to your peers, talking to the folks ahead of you. Those three generations of wealth builders. And the more you kind of add that to that conversation, when you talk about football, we talk about how much this guy's salary is. But so let's talk about that when we talk about our personal wealth as well. And it can be embarrassing. I don't think it was embarrassing now, but maybe I'm a little older. But I'm telling you, once you get that conversation going, and then you get a group of people talking about it, you're gonna see like, wow, they're no different than me. I just got to start moving.
Yeah, I mean, we share our kind of information. After the game, we're sitting there, we're discussing different stuff, we're giving out advice, tips, and things of that
Yeah,
nature. This is the same thing as your accountability group. This is a group of people that
exactly.
you have a common bond with, that you enjoy talking to, and you don't feel like, when I hate this statement here when people say, "Oh, I got a stupid question." There's never going to be a stupid question. There's
Never.
just going to be a question because that question may be something somebody else wanted to ask, and
Yes.
it was like, "Man, I'm glad he asked that question, man, because I sure want to ask it."
Mm-hmm.
So instead of saying it's a stupid question, say, "Hey, can you expound on this question for me? Because I'm not quite sure what you're asking or what you're saying, but I just got a question." And get the information that's free out there, you know, and build on it. And people always say it's funny, man. I talk to people and they're like, "Hey, I want to get into investing and whatnot," and I'd be like, "Okay, well, how much you want to invest on a monthly basis?" "Oh man, I don't really have a lot of money." But you got an iPhone while you're talking to me. You got a Starbucks coffee in your hand. And we having a whole conversation out here at a restaurant we about to go eat at. So I'm like, you just don't have the habits. You have the resources. Now, for the folks out there, because we're realistic, there are people out there that don't have the resources.
Right. Right.
But here's the thing about it is we're not talking about money. We're talking about the knowledge that you gain. So when it comes time for you to execute, you'll be ready to execute versus trying to catch up.
Yeah.
Knowledge is free. Knowledge don't cost anybody a thing. The rule of 72 is free. A mutual fund knowledge is free.
Right.
Stocks, dividends, systematic investment plans, drips. That information is free. It's just waiting for you when you have the opportunity to present yourself. I must have did that by my mind. Um, it must be telling my it's time my podcast ends. You know what? Things tell you when your podcast got to come to an end. Um, but before my podcast comes to an end, if you want to catch this episode, it'll be out onto the old school website on YouTube. Hey, if you go out there, check it out. Please subscribe. Ask me any questions. If you want to hit me up on Instagram, you can catch me on Instagram. Had the Silverroadtraveler with me today. Go out and check out his site. He is going through that golf trip. Eventually we're gonna have some golf trips. Uh,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Always
Even
a
if I
pleasure.
swing like Charles Barkley, I'm gonna be out there, brother.
Charles can hit a golf ball now. Before it was trash looking, but now he can hit a golf
Hey,
ball.
he weather y'all talking about him though, and that's
Ooh,
what's gonna be me.
yeah. I'll let you close it out, man. Give him the last words of advice right there, JD.
Well, again, recapping. First of all, I appreciate inviting me onto the space. I'm tell you this brother here. I've seen it. I've seen him implement these actions, these goals, these ideals, and these principles. I've seen him put it in action, and so, but I ain't no buts about it. But when you take those little steps, one bite at a time, and just learning, adding to your education, adding to your accountability group, becoming more humble, and reducing yourself from being embarrassed, and you'll start seeing that once you open up and you start talking to someone that may know, and maybe you want to be in a space where you don't talk to someone, there's a lot of free education out there. There's a lot of courses out there. There's a lot of social programs that actually dealing with
Oh yeah.
financial education. So I just think that the big takeaway is starting, get that group, follow these the advice, and I'm telling you, you'll see yourself in 20, 30 years just enjoying and giving to people, giving to folks that are less fortunate, and seeing some of the places you probably couldn't dream of when you were just starting out. So yeah, that's it.
Look, hey, y'all. Thanks again for joining me for another episode of Old School Finance with Friends. And we got JD here today. Hey, first thing you do, pay yourself first and start building. Y'all have a good one. That is going to end our episode.